This is Chris Gazdick coming to you with Through a Therapist's Eyes, having John Pope hanging out with us on a Thursday night.
Good to be with you.
Today we are going to be talking about what I'm going to call a misleading diagnosis in our field of mental health and substance abuse, alcohol use disorder. So welcome on Thursday. What is this? March now. We're on March 6 already.
March 6th.
Yikes.
Full lunar eclipse.
If you're happening to find us for the first time on this platform today, then we come on live on about 6:15 to 6:30 on Thursday nights. It's a great way to interact with us and give us some posts and some interaction, and we'll talk about the show. And here in a minute, we'll put the live mics on, what you'll hear on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So I'm kind of excited for this little controversial thing. You caught a little twinkle in your eye when I interacted a little bit ago.
I did, because that's a minefield here.
It's a little edgy, isn't it?
It's edgy. You know?
How you feeling about it?
Well, I kind of want to know where you're coming from.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I have a suspicion.
Why is this volume on, man?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the buttons controls incoming stuff. The other just controls the volume, doesn't it? I'm just not figuring that out. Thought I was good because I clicked the little... Anyway. Sorry about that, YouTuber.
Was that an iPhone?
It is.
That's too bad.
Why is that bad?
I'm joking.
I mean, we have a little bit of back and forth today, don't we?
Oh, yeah,
What's
a little
going
bit.
on, man?
Yeah.
I've never been tested by you.
Mm-hmm.
You're so peaceful, John. All right, I think we're probably ready to go, Neil. Remember, we're doing the shrink wrap up.
Okay.
Kind of as well this week, and we'll describe it, guys, on YouTube. That's something new that we're adding to the show, the shrink wrap up, where each host gives a key takeaway on the importance of properly diagnosing alcohol use disorder and whatnot, and then Neil gets to evaluate who gave the best summary point of the week.
Oh, good. Neil, the weight of the world's on your shoulders.
You handle that, Neil?
And I do take bribes.
Okay.
So just so you know.
Oh.
All right. Coolness.
Oh. Does that have to be money, or can that be other stuff? Privileges. How about
I am swayed by food.
How about a bubbly drink for you that I can give to you?
Are you going to take them away if I pick John?
I mean, maybe that's the whole point here, right? We'll see.
We'll see.
See how this goes.
Well, I think you have a real sense and eloquence.
But I don't know if I can get you beat, though. I think that your intellect and high level thought process on a doctor's level, I don't know if I can even get there.
Well, it's.
But you know what? We're
all
only,
it takes is a little sweat.
We're only a couple minutes into the YouTube live, and you, sir, have got a compliment. Would you like to know what your live compliment is?
No. What? Thank you,
Carolyn. Hello, Carolyn. Good to see you out there. John looks nice in the blue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice, right? A little
Yes,
ego
it
boost to start out.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's
Thank
fire
you.
the mics up and get this thing going then.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hello, I am Chris Gazdick with Through a Therapist's Eyes, a show where you get insights from a panel of therapists in your home or in your car, but knowing it's not the delivery of therapy services in any way. Miss Victoria Pendergrass is not going to be with us due to child care concerns, I gather. We are doing episode 302. Misleading diagnosis is what I'm going to call it, Mr. Pope. This is going to be fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd like to see where we're going on
I know.
this one.
We're going to go wherever we want to go.
Yeah.
Alcohol use disorder, misleading diagnosis. I think this is going to be a little edgy in our field. If you're a therapist listening, please don't send us hate mail or whatever I say. But I just got some serious thoughts about all of this. And Mr. John Pope is hanging out with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. Thank you.
On March the 26th or 6th.
6th.
I want to progress to.
Yeah. I did
guess
too.
March
I want
Madness.
winter to get over now.
Oh, are you done with winter?
I'm done with winter.
Oh,
I'm done.
But the heat and humidity comes after. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Right.
I don't
So we
either.
should stay here.
Yeah, we should stay right at this temperature.
We're not bad, right? It's sunny.
It's sunny, and
It was
it's
a little
not-
chilly out there
yeah.
with the wind today.
The wind was very bad yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, we had a major storm come rolling through. Okay, so let me see. What else do I need to say? Subscribe, click the buttons. That helps us get found and get noticed. We're really asking for YouTube Live to tell somebody, a friend, to subscribe, hit the panel to subscribe for us, tell a friend.
On
John,
Apple, give us a 5-star rating.
John is always very personal, takes that very personally with anything under 5 stars. I try to hold him back from this thing to not shame people into it. But what are you going to do to him if they give us a 3-star?
Oh,
You're just going to be upset?
no, I won't come after them or anything.
You're not coming for anybody?
No, we're not everybody's cup of tea.
Contact at throughatherapisteyes.com is a great way to interact with us, too, on email. We'd love to hear from you, talk to you. Finally, this is the human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out together. Mr. Reed Ferguson, to highlight him today, we haven't in a little while, is the man and the myth and the legend that created, John, you know what? You remember? The intro.
The intro.
Have you heard the intro in a while? You haven't, have you?
I haven't.
Yeah,
with the music.
Yeah, with the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't play it in studio, so I figure you haven't probably even heard this for a while.
I haven't heard it for a long time.
Yeah, you need to tune it in on a show and just listen to the first couple minutes.
Well,
how cool it rings in.
Okay.
He created that specifically for us.
Thank you, Mr. Neil Ferguson.
Reed Ferguson.
Oh,
Neil Robinson. That's
Neil Robinson. Okay.
The man behind the curtains.
Right.
All right, reedferguson.com, ReidFerguson, reedferguson.com. You can find him on Instagram, Facebook, and various places. He'd love to come and play for you. He is an awesome musician. 3 questions we're going to talk about today, John. Have I ever assumed someone's drinking habits were problematic without understanding their full context? It's an interesting question, even for a clinician.
Yes.
Right? How can misdiagnosing alcohol use disorder impact treatment and a person's self-perception? And what are the key differences between casual alcohol use, problematic drinking, and alcohol use disorder? That third question right there, John.
Yes.
I think that's the major source of my angst.
Mm-hmm.
You follow?
Yeah.
This is an unfair thing to do to you.
Like I said.
Don't give you a...
Don't put me on the spot on this one.
I have to a little bit because you're curious where we're going to go. You're curious what we're going to say. We've alluded to this being a little edgy. The title, Misleading Diagnosis, Alcohol Use Disorder. You know you've heard me talk about the disease model.
Yeah.
And you and I oftentimes, I think, link up pretty good with what the traditional addictions field is and how that's been, I think, really kind of impeded upon in recent times. So, I don't know. I'm just curious how you see that. What is your opening sense about this whole topic?
Well, I think the waters got muddied actually with the DSM-5 a little bit because it moved. It seems to be, for me, confusing in terms of determining what is exactly alcohol use disorder.
Very.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah.
Very. Like we've progressed backwards.
Yes.
And that's my beef. Question. I don't know the answer to this question. I'm embarrassed, and actually I don't have my DSM-TR. I wanted to look at that today closely.
We have a new one.
No, I lent it out.
Oh.
Certain somebody has it.
I know she does.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
I've got mine.
I do not. I should have asked. I think Victoria has one also. I probably could have done that. I've just been crazy busy today, too. Is there any difference with AUD compared to DSM-5 to DSM-5-TR? Now, you listening at home understand the DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's the book of all the mental health diagnoses we get and have. And we just have what does TR stand for? Revised?
Revised.
What's
TR.
the T?
I don't know.
DSM-TR. The T has to mean something.
Yeah.
Transcription revised. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we have a in-between 5 and 6, basically, a revised version of our book. And I'm asking you, John, is there anything different with AUD from DSM-5 to DSM-TR?
I don't know.
You don't know either?
I don't know.
I don't know if they changed anything. I doubt it. I
Yeah.
seriously, significantly doubt
Yeah.
it. But I wanted to check. So you're not sure either.
TR stands for text revision.
Text revision. Thank you, Neil. Thank you. That would have bothered me tremendously.
I could have. I might need to.
See if that's the change?
Yeah, no, it's text revision. I'm just trying to figure out what exactly is the difference.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there is. I mean, a lot of things they just leave the same. I mean, that's if there's nothing new research, we just leave everything the same so that it doesn't really, engage differently. So, well, we'll look at that. I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm pretty confident that it isn't. So let's talk about why alcohol use disorder is often misunderstood. Okay, what do you think? Well, gosh, how provocative do we want to be, John? I was kind of surprised when I did my professional speaking engagements that people in a case study. Remember, we talked about it. You helped me design the case study that I use. I wanted to make it provocatively thinking about trauma, but didn't have enough to meet any criterion.
Right.
And we ended up with acute stress disorder versus, alcohol use disorder.
Yeah,
right?
it was a duration. It didn't.
With the pieces that were in the little schematic that I created to help, by the way, you listener understand to train therapists doing therapy, like, what diagnosis this case study would likely end up. And a lot of them said alcohol use disorder, John. They did.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it, and I didn't have enough time to spend time on it until we were done because I was really kind of scrambling at the end to get everything in. They did not use the qualifiers. Mild, moderate, or severe. There was no mention of that. They just threw out AUD as a diagnosis.
Right.
But it's so inadequate and so incomplete. And
it does a disservice to the clients,
Yes.
I think, very much because it can be very challenging with, let's say, the subtle differences in terms of developing the full-blown, I'm going to use the word disease.
Please.
All right, disease model.
Yeah.
And that is that it's a progression. And so you have somebody with a
Disease model means what?
Disease model means that there is, in a sense, the organic condition of it. It's not something that you can just change by right thinking. You can. Part of that is the mental health aspects of it, but there's also
willpower.
Willpower. But willpower has never cured.
Doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. Has never treated effectively alcoholism.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
There's so much that goes into that, and we're just not going to have time, I think, for this show all day today to kind of go into all the misleading nature of what this is.
And it does a disservice to the clients who come for treatment because they all have this idea of there's a lot of judgment, self-judgment that they have. Many of my clients do, guilt that they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's funny. When I am assessing somebody's relationship with alcohol and or drugs of any kind, and I begin to get concerned about, hey, there's enough here for us to really explore this and get into understanding this applies to you or it doesn't. People do not understand very well the word addiction.
Right.
We've talked about that on the show before.
Right.
And we just, it's funny to throw out into the a space with somebody. What is addiction? It's just, all kind of crazy conversations that are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good, but it's just fascinating to me. And I didn't get to do that in my training a whole lot, unfortunately. But the reason why that is because there's so many misconceptions and myths within the field of therapy itself.
Right.
And alcohol use disorder completely misses the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm talking to somebody and we're identifying there's enough red flags, we're concerned about this being a diagnosis, let's get into this. Like, I will purposely use the words addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought, Sally, about, alcoholism being a thing for you?
Mm-hmm.
And you should see the reactions. You see the wheels spinning, because when you say alcohol use disorder, it doesn't have that connotation.
No,
does
it's
it?
something that they can get. That it doesn't do the full import of how it can absolutely bring havoc or wreak havoc in one's life, family,
Dominate somebody's life is what came to
physically
my mind.
dominate.
Yes.
That they actually become so that
Addicted.
their life addicted. Their life revolves around getting that other drink, to get the Everclear, to get the to say, well, I'm not addicted. I just drink beer or something of this sort. And I just do it on the weekends. And so
Lots of rationalizations
right.
that are there.
And I don't drink I don't drink at work. That would be another one. And then they come home and they get blotto and they black out.
But alcohol use disorder means what to a lesser extent?
Oh, this is something you can control.
Bottom line, bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And we know one of the things that substance abuse therapists understand very, very clearly is that you cannot control your use. That's the big differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always kind of said a good way to understand that is that your relationship with alcohol or drugs is predictable.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not really predictable, then you don't really have control, meaning you might come home at 10, but you might not come home till 2. You just really don't know on any given encounter with alcohol or drugs what's going to happen. So we can go, and I encourage you, please, I implore you, if you're listening to the show, check out some of our older shows. And, I really didn't get those prepared. I need the episodes to scan that and tell us, what the episodes are, a few of the good ones, because I really want you to take the deep dive with us on, what is addiction? What is alcoholism? Actually, I lied, Neil. Episode 195, A Debate on Drug Addiction Recovery Issues with Mr. Daniel Gasser. That was a really cool discussion. Episode 222, the panel battles with what is addiction. That I really want you to listen to. 222. That's actually an easy number to remember. Man, I just get so concerned about this, John. I get so concerned about how fellow clinicians arguably just miss the boat when it comes to people, men and women that their lives are crushed by addiction. And we just say alcohol use disorder and move along and treat it as a side note, almost.
Yeah.
Self-medicating side note.
Uh-huh.
An
Right.
adjunct
You
to
just-
the main problem, trauma or depression
the
or anxiety.
Addiction is so bad that it is, when there's withdrawal, it causes greater physiological trauma to the body, to one's body, than one would with narcotics.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot.
It's saying a lot.
Yeah.
This is a dominating experience with somebody in their whole existence and whatnot. I mean, look, I was very, very confused when I was learning about addiction doing the DUI class in 1999. Seriously, that's when I was doing the DUI class. No, check that. 1996 is when I got my first main gig after undergrad. And there was one line, John, and in this paperwork and presentation I was giving, there was a line that said, addiction is primary. And I didn't really know what that meant. I really was confused. I had to learn. And I went and remember asking questions to my supervisor like all the time with different things to learn this stuff. And it's where I got my basic understanding of addiction right from the get-go in the field. Do you understand, of course, what primary, what that means?
That means above all others.
Yeah.
It's everything.
If you don't address the addiction issues first in therapy, Mr. or Mrs. Therapist listening. If you do not address the addiction issues first, you can't get to the other stuff.
You can't deal with the depression. You can't deal with the anxiety. And part of this is the addiction aspects of alcohol, because it does play so much, literally pickling your brain.
Literally.
Is that your brain is damaged, basically. And it can repair itself to a certain extent, but it takes months. And so one's treatment has to be primarily the addiction itself. Then work through that support systems and work through, as one is recovering, one works through and starts to be able to, well, this is get to the root of the depression, get to the root of the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll fix the alcohol use disorder. And it's just, that's backwards.
Yeah, it's backwards.
You're and even long before your brain gets pickled and all this type of stuff, and your systems are run down with heroin addiction and cocaine, cokehead and whatnot, like very much earlier than that, but late enough that we can identify addiction, meaning alcohol use disorder, moderate. I'm going to talk about the different differentiations here in a moment.
Moderate, severe.
Yeah. But, way earlier, before your life is completely destroyed, it's still primary. And you can't begin to address the anxiety, OCD, or the trauma-related issues. Trauma is a big one. A lot of therapists are going to say, like, well, we need to do trauma work. This is self-medicating behavior, and we need to kind of resolve the things that you've got in your life.
Here's the question.
I'm getting John worked up.
Well, can you truly be treated for depression if your mind is still, even though you are not having alcohol in your system, but you are still recovering from the physiological and addictive aspects of alcohol? Would you be able to truly treat the trauma?
Listen, therapists that don't know this term, I want you to look it up, because we don't have time to cover all of these topics, but you'll find them in our shows. We've done a show on post-acute withdrawal syndrome, right?
Right.
PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I mean, you're asking me a question, John. I'm going to say no.
Right.
If you're in post-acute withdrawal syndrome status, which is many months after you attain sobriety, right?
Right.
No, you can't treat brain fog thinking it's just depression if you're not aware of the alcohol issue.
Right. I have a young man that's in recovery right now. He's 5 years into recovery.
5 years sober. Okay.
5 years sober. And one of the things that was, because he was a teenager when he developed this addiction, and he started to begin the process of recovery. He had to actually be hospitalized for it. He said one of the things that was pounded in his brain was, for the first year, don't even get into a serious relationship with another person.
It's a suggestion, yes.
Yeah. Strong suggestion.
Yeah. There are several strong suggestions. Yeah, because you're not geared into sanity yet. You're really so consumed with the preoccupation of addiction and the actual lack of control and the hiding of the supply and the brain fog that kind of gets up, the preoccupation. I think I said that already. I mean, it's just all these different symptom sets are running through your life that you have to sort that stuff out before you can kind of be sane, right?
Yeah. Got a question for you.
Okay.
Have you, in your experience, found any of the assessments to be helpful when explaining this?
Yeah, I don't use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do the MAST or the audit. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm personally, I just, I feel like I'm able to see a lot of the red flags in the warning signs that we look for. I mean, I'm really good about identifying this as an issue, because I've been doing it since 1997, for real. And so I don't know. I probably should. I know I can be. I wasn't keep myself open for criticism.
I wasn't trying to put you on the
That's
spot.
fine. That's fine. No problem.
That was an authentic question.
I understand. Do you use them still?
Yeah, I still use them, but it's not for everybody. I kind of like assessments, so that's
you love assessments.
I love assessments. Well,
it's the psychologist in you, isn't it?
Yeah,
They get this whole research thing in you, and
Yeah.
I just want to get in there with the client and be on their level and just
Yeah.
identify stuff. That's kind of my jam.
So yeah, so I mean that's a little bit more of me, but it does seem to me that you have to be able to just to lay out in terms of the criteria for what would show addiction, and I think that's the problem with AUD, alcohol use disorder, is that it kind of uses language to soften the impact of what addiction truly is and how all-encompassing
and it does a disservice. If that is what we are trying to do, I'm even more upset.
Right.
I've thought of that before, John.
Why do you think? I'm sorry.
Hold on. Is this like powers that be in our field that are trying to lessen the quote unquote blow of alcohol dependence? That's what we used to call it. Alcoholism. Those terms are not nice. Those terms are damning to people. Those terms, shame people or whatever. Like, I hope that's not the thinking behind this diagnosis.
Well, when I was getting my doctorate, that the big thing was harm reduction.
Yeah,
and I have some. Yeah, I have some issues with that too.
Absolutely, methadone clinics and Suboxone treatments and reduction of harmful use. Yeah,
Vivitrol for shots in the butt to help with the alcohol.
That would actually be a fun show to do sometime. Another one of these, kind of edgy shows a little bit where you and I are a little cranky on what's going on.
Yeah. Well,
harm reduction programs are not are they have some issues.
And I could see if somebody is so dependent, so addicted, that the only way they can actually well, you see, that's why you have to go, why people resist so much going away for rehab. And why are so many rehabs up in the mountains somewhere where you can't, near no towns or cities?
They're remote locations.
Yeah.
Because when we answer your question, why?
Why? Because you don't have access, and the only thing you can focus in on is your rehabilitation.
Your recovery.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is alcohol use disorder? You hear us talking about it. It's a little different than the question we usually ask, what is addiction? So, it's funny. Episode 222, we dealt with that in depth. The panel with Victoria here, we launched into answering that question. So we're not going to do that today. But if you go to that show, you'll get an in-depth understanding of alcohol, cocaine, heroin, and whatnot. The words just shift, which is the same thing. Dependence is what we used to call alcoholism and addiction and stuff.
Right.
It was alcohol dependence, and a lesser form of a problem was alcohol abuse. And again, the differentiation there, one of the big differentiations is a sense of control over your use with that substance, right? So alcohol abuse, you had control over the substance. Alcohol dependence, you didn't. Well, they've just lumped everything together and said alcohol use disorder, mild, is what used to be alcohol abuse, right?
Yes.
And then moderate and severe are more alcohol dependence, right? I mean, I don't understand why we did that, John. For the life of me, for the goodness life in me, why did we do that?
Again, I think it's because we don't want to have people think that that this is something that that. I guess it's the use of language that seems
I hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
I really hope you're wrong.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
I don't know. I really am flat-footed here. I am completely flat-footed. I think you're good chance being right. I thought that before, but I really hope you or we are wrong. I guess to take a stab at answering that, I think what's happened is, we're beginning to develop science around brain imaging,
right?
And I know there's some arguments about how we can see brain functioning on scans, and they're seeing some things with, well-known addicts and what their brains look like and how it looks similar to other people that are newer into use or have never shown any problems until later on in life. I mean, I think there's some, I'm going to call it weird science that we're trying to learn about.
Yeah.
That makes the researchers want to lump that in together. But I just think that's just so dangerous and misses the point.
Right.
Like, I don't know that we really have a good handle on brain imaging and what the heck that images are showing us.
Right.
And it's dangerous to, as you say, water it down and just say it's just a use disorder, mild, moderate, or severe. That's my guess. How does that sound to you? I'm really
curious. Sounds very much on point for me.
Yeah.
Because, even if you do these advanced MRIs and you could see the brain atrophy that occurs with alcoholism or with the addiction aspect of it, and you could see the physiological, the external, it doesn't quite get into what does it do to the connections of the neurons themselves. And so I think you have to be...
There's a lot going on that we don't understand in the brain.
Again, a disease process.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's old school thinking, the disease model. And I don't know, has that gotten...
I'm old. So
well, I am not. But it is still, I don't know, how do I want to ask you that? Do you think the disease model's been criticized and destroyed by the field? I know it's been kind of controversial a little bit, but...
Well, I think part of it is...
Are we a dying breed, John, I guess?
Yeah.
Is my curiosity.
Well, I would hope that we would actually be able to help people get better, to recover.
Well, I'm saying clinicians. I'm saying with other clinicians.
Yeah, I think right now, that's... They'll go. I think people will go to those practitioners or clinicians that actually will give them what they want. For example, the medication that they want, and not have them do the hard work, which would be the therapy. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, in terms of recovery. I
don't think you're answering my question, though. I'm curious. I know that people in the field, other therapists, professionals on a higher level, researchers and whatnot, has there been enough pressure on the disease model concept that has broken that down and destroyed that?
Yeah. Do you think it has?
I'm asking you.
I don't.
I don't think so, but I
don't
hope
think
not.
so.
Is my main point.
Yeah.
I think is I really, really hope not.
Well, when I talk to people that are doing the frontline therapy, in the let's say at the the residential treatment centers, they're still doing that model that's very effective
in rehabs. I'm kind of thinking outside of rehabs.
Well,
rehabs are a sanctity. They're pretty, a lot of people are in recovery. There's still a lot of that great divide. But I think I'm actually, honestly, I should have been clearer, kind of talking about outside of the rehab centers.
Yeah, okay. Like, I don't want to... there's a prominent clinic that's in Charlotte.
Okay, yeah,
and it's quite good.
Yes. And they're pretty solid in the disease model still, right?
Yeah, they're pretty solid in that. And it's not residential. But I also know... Yeah,
they have an IOP.
I have some of my former students that work in agencies or in outpatient clinics, and they basically aren't... they'll do a little check-in, but let's say a methadone clinic, for example.
Okay.
They don't do treatment. They don't do. They just basically say, okay, we want to reduce the amount of methadone that this person takes over a period of time.
Like a decade.
Like a decade.
Yeah,
and it goes on to
seriously.
2 decades, and 3 decades.
Yeah.
Then there's the and then there's the other is for alcohol, and they say, well, we're trying to reduce the amount of drinking slowly and the desire for it, and treat it as somehow that the addiction is ended once you stop drinking, and that's the addiction still progresses.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so I guess what I heard you say in the first half of that, and then you're going into, like, you want to talk about harm reduction, I could tell. Because it sounds like you're saying, no, Chris, we're good. You know, a lot of people out there in, you know, this prominent place in Charlotte and rehab centers, we know it's a disease model. Like, you're... And I feel
and
like...
I think there's a significant number of those still left.
Because seriously, I wasn't really sure at this point. I'm so engaged in my own work here, as you know. We're busy, and I feel like I lose touch a little bit, and I'm relieved.
And the VA, which
right,
obviously,
you're in tune with that.
Oh Lord, and
disease model is good there, right?
Disease model is good, and
I feel happy.
And it's gold, and it's gold in the services.
Okay, I feel much better, to be honest with you. I really do,
because that is the major issue that many of the treatments of young men and women have is issues with.
So I have a provocative question for you, John. Okay. Tell me not to put you on the spot, but you saw the show notes, I hope, in advance.
Yes, I did.
So maybe you're a little prepared, because I want to ask you. I've really been curious to ask Victoria this in her limited time dealing with the issues that we have on the show and her getting training, because she is not really a substance abuse professional. But by golly, I think we're getting her pretty geared into it, aren't we, John?
Well, that was one of my first trainings. Was
same for me as well.
Alcohol, and drugs.
So my curiosity is how, we were just talking a little bit about the field's diagnosis being a little misleading with alcohol use disorder and how that's changed over the years. I'm just really kind of curious how your attitudes about addiction and, the whole process of progression and, my views on this issue have changed a lot over the years, tweaked here and there with the main staples remaining the same. But I've wondered things about addiction and alcoholism and whatnot. Have your views changed over the years? I mean, you've been doing this a long time. From where you started to where you are now, what are some things that you've had movement with?
Yeah, I've had movement from the moral suasion type of it was a moral issue initially.
Oh, it was? Okay. And now we know it's not.
We know it's not. And that actually was when I went to seminary, was because I was working with people before I even went to seminary, and there was a bit of that moralistic aspect to it, and that has kind of moved away. And I think that's a good riddance kind of thing. Much of it, because that adds just so much more to the guilt and shame that a person has. I see more of an emphasis now on the idea that there has to be a sense that it's not just a disease that affects an individual; it affects the person's family, the employment.
Oh, so you had change over the years where I guess you were very. When did you start practicing, John? I hate to ask you so bluntly.
Well, it's 1979.
79? That's awesome. That's great, man. Yeah, because Claudia Black, I mean, you came in right when she was doing her stuff and nobody knew about it, right?
Right.
So in the 80s and the early 90s, we started really realizing that. So you didn't know that at first?
Right. And
that's funny.
Then I had time when I was at seminary as well, when we started doing that treatment and with pastoral counseling. Yeah. Then when I was in the Navy, I was very much involved with, which was with the Navy's alcohol and drug treatment.
Oh wow, you did a lot in there.
Did
that change your mind or mood or attitude a little bit?
Yeah.
How so? With your time in the Navy, or?
Yeah, well, part of it is that again that was the move from moralistic.
Okay,
for me,
moral to non-moral issue.
in the sense that I had plenty of my own stuff that was interfering and it would make me an obstacle as a therapist.
Right, in the way that you viewed people that had a problem,
right?
Or that type of thing.
So I went through training for it was intense. It was 8 weeks for basically I went through a recovery process.
Oh, really? Your own 12-step or whatever?
Yeah, 12 steps.
As a clinician?
As a clinician, did 12 steps.
Okay.
And
very cool. I think everyone should, be honest with you.
well, I think life's a 12-step.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that was one of the most revealing.
That's another show, to be honest.
But I was with folks that were having eating disorders, overeating. We had people that were dealing with alcohol. Drugs was not so much an issue because you wouldn't be in the service. They would kick your butt out at that point.
Yeah.
And they would actually refer them to the VA.
I'll give you another thing that's really changed that I think you're just on the touchstone there, but you haven't said it out loud yet. The process addictions. Eating addictions, gambling addictions, sex addictions, and actually online video gaming addictions.
We didn't have that in the 80s.
About that?
But we did have the eating and the gambling addictions.
Oh, those two come first? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, because sex addictions.
Yeah. And sex addictions.
Yeah, Bill Clinton put that on the map.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything derogatory.
We had sex people grappling with sex addiction in the military.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. And,
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And there was a little bit more of and I think this is the difference between those centers that are in the military itself is that you have to do it or you're out. You know, that's the sense. That was they would basically be discharged with other than honorable.
So would you say that your attitudes and understandings about addiction have changed a lot throughout your years? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, but it's still the disease model for me.
Yeah.
But it has. I think I've a lot more compassion.
Yeah.
A lot more empathy. A lot more sense that that there was the other myth that said that you can't treat you can't participate in a person's recovery unless you've been a recovering addict. I think you can do that, and because if you're immersed in that, you have you know this. You've got more of an ability to do it. You have some insights that someone that may not come from an addiction's point of view.
Okay, I want to say a couple of these because I want to move us along a little bit and get us out. But there's a few things that I've really experienced, changing over the years in my view, and one of those is really about like where and how this begins. There's a genetic reality that I've always kind of believed, but there's some very strange, and I'm currently struggling with very strange experiences that people have way later on in life, specifically and especially like in menopause. Are there, open question in my mind is are there biological changes that can trigger what looks like addiction? Because it acts like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, but it never looked like a duck until it was like you were 40. Yeah.
So hormonal.
I gotta wonder.
Endocrine.
I gotta wonder about the endocrine system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree. And
it's curious to me as all get out.
But the thing is with alcohol in terms of addiction is that it actually increases in males estrogen. And
when you drink a lot, you get a lot more estrogen. Really?
Estrogen, yes.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's
a hormone.
It is absolutely a hormone.
Yes. And that's one of the issues of why a person, besides the effects of alcohol on the body, is maybe the person's having difficulty with ED, for example, if it's a male. And
that's true.
Yeah.
When you have alcohol troubles, you oftentimes also have erectile dysfunction trouble.
Yes.
And that's hormone related.
Right.
John, I wonder if addiction is a hormone related issue. Like all told biologically from the get go.
Yeah. Well,
is that possible?
I think it could be possible.
I've floated the theory for a few years now about axis 2 personality disorders being endocrine system related.
Yeah.
It's a total new thought I've never had before.
I think we should go back to axis 2.
Right. Well, yeah, that's for sure.
This cross-cutting stuff is just,
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah, I agreed, but I want to. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have one. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I'm wondering if you've added a whole new conundrum to my thinking about this. Is this an endocrine hormone related? Have you ever thought of that before, John? Or did we create that together?
We created it together.
For real?
Yes, right.
You've never thought of that before?
Well, you and I started talking about it, and you stimulated my brain. So
and we figured that out together.
Figured it out.
Would that not be amazing if 20, 30 years from now, somebody comes back and hears this episode as the first time that anyone's ever thought of this as a potential hormone-related issue with the endocrine system?
It'd be the gastric Pope model.
Let me finish. That the disease model included is explained by that. That would be wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pope gastric model, I like that.
Yeah.
That's totally crazy. I'm going to be thinking about that a lot. Thanks, John. I'll be up till 2, geeking out on this.
Well, just think about it in terms of the genetic component to it as well. And then there's the epigenetic aspect to it. The aspect of growing up in your own parent being exposed to an abusive environment and being in fear. And then so one is raised in that kind of is born and maybe has more of a genetic predisposition to become addicted to alcohol. Bowen, for example, Murray Bowen, with Family Systems.
Oh,
okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he started out. He was an MD, and he started out with the idea of dealing with addictions. And
with Family Systems.
Family Systems.
That was probably around the time of Claudia Black doing her work. She's my all-star when it comes to family dynamics.
Yeah.
But they were probably, they were about in satire as well. Although satire was
I think Bowen was a little bit earlier, I think.
Earlier, as was satire. And they weren't really addiction-related, though, were they?
No. Yeah. But he did work with addictions. And he had sort of a theory going on that. But I hadn't read Bowen in years, so...
I just am blown away by that. And, okay, so let's move a little bit further. I'm going to bring this hormone thing back in a second.
Research. We could do research.
You love research. I'll do the,
let me develop the
You get
the
that
model.
done, brother.
Okay.
You get that done. Okay, so differentiating AUD from social drinking, binge drinking, and dependency is something that we've kind of touched base on. So I think the thing that I really want to just highlight here for folks is like when you're beginning to wonder about your relationship with alcohol, we are not talking about coping, using alcohol to cope. That's only one little piece of addiction or alcohol use disorder. It very much, is a destructive coping mechanism. Yeah. But that's not that doesn't rise to the level of alcohol use disorder. That's just a basic. I need to feel better because my boyfriend's pissing me off. Let me go drink a few beers. Or I'm stressed out because of work and I need to have a couple of drinks at the bar, just to kind of settle down because this project is really on my mind. That is not what we're talking about. That's not good, and it's one of the little things that we look at. But that's social destructive coping, is social drinking. That's not what we're looking at. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Did I say that well? So just
it's not like there's 3 martini.
Yeah.
That's a little social, but that starts verging on bothersome and problematic drinking, I think, or going into
what
addiction.
does.
If you have 3 martinis during your lunch.
During lunch hour, sure. There's some indicators there.
Yeah,
you can't be all getting all liquored
flags.
up and go back to work, Okay, so there's an article from Very Well Mind that I'll point out that kind of I think was kind of cool. 5 criteria for substance use disorders. So this is really, I usually don't like, the 5 this or the 10 this or that, but they actually did a pretty good job there. And but let me bring John the hormone thing back into this. Look at the potential hormone impacts on these 5 identified substance use disorder symptom sets, right? So psychotic or bipolar depression, up and down, and the anxieties that you get, OCD, sleep disorders, sexual dysfunction, and delirium. These are 5 criterion for the way that they talked about identifying substance induced. Oh no, okay. Neil, I almost want you to strike the last 4 seconds out of this, redo it, but because I just got confused. The article that I was thinking is at the end, where 5 subtle signs that you might have alcohol use disorder.
Yeah, see, that was on the second page.
Yeah. And I screwed it up, but I want to come back and then we'll talk about substance-induced disorders. But these are things. But again, look at what happens with the hormones. I'm curious. So the first thing they're identifying is looking forward to social interactions. Alcohol is the only reason that you look forward to that. 2, people in your life comment on your drinking. And then 3, you start thinking your friends are boring for not drinking like you. And then you're constantly making excuses to normalize what your drinking is. And 5th, you keep trying to quit drinking. So those are actually not hormone related at all, but they're good indicators. I was impressed with the way the article laid that out. John, save me. Talk about substance-induced disorders and what that is all about.
Okay.
Now I just need to recover over here.
Okay, well, we'll go here and talk about this. And so the question is, because there's a list of psychotic, bipolar, depressive, anxiety, OCD, sleep disorders, sexual dysfunction, and delirium. All these, you could say, is chicken or the egg in a sense?
Right.
And so you can start developing with very heavy drinking, psychosis. You could also have severe mood swings and all of that. That's true. Depression. You recover from the hangover, and you're depressed and you're anxious. I wonder why? Because you are
you're inducing that with substance use. Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever diagnosed X-induced substance disorder? I don't know that I've ever honestly diagnosed it.
No.
Yeah, you haven't.
No, I hadn't either in many years.
I mean, I'm aware that the things are there, but I don't see a reason why. I
think more with somebody that might have amphetamines and cocaine and that's sort of
particularly bipolar.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, let me take a stab at it, John, as well, to say that there is this thing that you'll hear in our field called substance-induced depression, substance-induced sleep disorder, substance-induced delirium, or bipolar disorder. And the thing is these are to your point before when you were saying, John, this is a primary issue. People will have problems like that, but it's induced by addiction.
Right.
Basically. These are things that happen as a result of your relationship with alcohol or drugs being so dominant.
How many clients do you have that ever had normal sleep with alcohol? With alcoholism.
Very rare. Yeah. His sleep is so destroyed.
But also I see more of the bipolar behavior and with
mood fluctuations, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes.
See, that's what I was excited about thinking the article that I was quoting. It got me all off track a little bit ago because I started thinking about the hormone thing. And I mean, think about, John, all of those things that we know are a part of addiction that are interacting with the endocrine system. Mm-hmm. I mean, sleep, that's a big one. Yeah. Appetite and the malnutrition that we have, that's a big hormone system. What else? Your mood, the fluctuations we just identified. Are there, sleep? That's a big hormone kind of reality. Like, there's a lot of endocrine systems in that.
Melatonin is a hormone.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
serotonin. And I'm thinking that all that's interrelated.
Energy
Takes years to get one system back.
The endocrine system gets jacked up.
Right.
And takes years
It
to get
affects your
resettled.
cortisol levels.
Cortisol.
Yeah. All those levels. And so
it's just curious, man. That is wild that and I'm going to give it to you. I think you got to it first.
Okay.
I'm going to give it to you.
Thank
You got to it first. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, what else do we want to cover before we kind of begin wrapping up a little bit? I think the impact of misleading nature of alcohol use disorder is, the dominating reality of addiction gets missed. It gets lessened and cheapened.
Okay.
That's the primary beef that I have with this whole thing.
In my military experience as a Navy chaplain and having gone through the addiction courses, basically, and working with sailors and Marines, is that they'll say, "Well, I started drinking because I started having these nightmares. I have PTSD and all of this."
A lot of military PTSD is a part of this.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to posit with you is that I think that that maybe part of the addiction is the culture that says we need to go out in town and go drinking and doing this.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that. I don't know what you're saying there. I push back at the idea that, it's not the culture that causes addiction. It's more of the biological, genetic kind of reality. The culture pushes a lot of use and everything. Maybe I'm
that's
not
what I was trying.
understanding.
No, you understood at that point. Yeah.
What did I understand?
That it's not the culture itself that does it. It's the fact that there's that accessibility and ability to have it, and many young people, part of the rite of passage is to drink to excess.
Begin drinking, yeah. And so, anybody that has college is probably very similar. I mean, we know that addiction is about 10 to 15% of our population.
But let's say they develop
static
PTSD
number for a long time,
and they notice that it kind of scratches their itch or itches their. Wow. Anyway, what I'm saying is that it takes away some of the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is or isn't addiction. You're saying, to be clear.
Yeah. Right.
Is or isn't?
No, that's not addiction at that point.
Isn't. Yes,
isn't.
It is
right.
not.
But it eventually becomes that.
Yeah, what I was saying is, there's about 10 to 15% of our population has addiction. It's been a pretty static number, as you know, John, for a long time.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed. And so when you go to college or when you go to the military, I guess you're saying, chances are you're going to be encouraged to drink a lot more because of the culture.
But only
and it's going to grab
10%. Still 10%.
But it's still 10% in the military.
10%.
Yeah. A lot of people drink a lot,
mm-hmm.
but only so many percentage of people tend to have addiction, which again just emphasizes the disease model and the genetic nature of all of this. I mean, if you drink like a fish, it doesn't mean you're going to have addiction. In fact, if you just don't have the makeup, then you generally won't. Unless, though, like I said, John, it starts being different in midlife. And I think that's honestly more for women than men. Is that a fair
I would
statement?
agree with you on that. And I think that's...
it's odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really odd to me. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know what that's about.
I started singing to you a Rolling Stones song from the 60s, Mother's Little Helper.
Okay.
Okay.
Before the mics came on.
Right.
You're going to have to explain to the listener what...
Well, it was a song about women taking little... it was a big drug, was Darvon and Valium and...
Valiums.
Yeah, Valiums. And
that was Mama's Little Helper?
Mama's Little Helper, right. Help her get through the day. But that would also, one would think of a middle-aged...
okay. I see where you're
drugs...
going.
Pardon?
I see where you're going. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think maybe there is more something to it. And I think men start sooner sometimes with the alcoholism. But that may be because...
But not as much in midlife. Do you see that in midlife for men?
No.
Because I do not either.
No, I don't. Yeah.
For women, that feels different. It's anecdotally, the experience seems different. And
I
don't know
wonder
why
if there's
that
a
would be.
study. I'd like to see some studies that would tackle that.
Boy, that's a hell of a tackle if we can tackle that and figure that out.
Yeah.
All right, we need to wind in and wind down here. So, John, we are going to do the very first ever. It is time for the Shrink Wrap-Up. And this is where we highlight in our mind what the biggest or catchiest or most important key today that we've talked about, the key takeaway. And Neil gets to decide how we delivered that, which one is the biggest and what not between the three of us, in this case, the two of us. So what might say you, John, what is the biggest key takeaway today for episode 302?
That alcoholism, despite some changes that have been going on with in terms of diagnosis with the DSM-5 TR, is still a disease model in my mind, and that there is, in again my experience, possibility of an endocrine connection to it.
Oh, you got the end there. You pulled the end in. I don't know if you pulled multiple things, but you stole my thunder.
Sorry.
So no, I don't know if
that's
you
just did it for me.
You just grabbed that into the end. Because I got to say, the biggest takeaway in my mind by far, and I thought you were totally going to go there. You went first. I thought, I'm not going to get it because, dang. This whole endocrine system, new thinking that you and I kind of created together with you being in the lead, but still that might be the coolest, biggest, most important takeaway, because I think if somebody literally hears that and goes and gets interested in researching it, we have done serious service to the field, all told, because I've never heard anybody mentioning or talking about that before. And I think that we may have created an amazing new component of our understanding of addiction.
But it would also explain.
Okay, we got to be done. Neil, who gets it? What are you thinking? We got to get out of here. Where are you at?
It has to be John, because he covered his piece and then he got the endocrine first. So
wow.
This one is, to me, hands down John, because you made the mistake of letting him go first.
Very well. All right, John, you get it, brother.
Okay.
The Shrink Wrap-Up. Guys, you take care. Have a great week. We're going to keep riding with you, rolling with you. We got episode 302